guys, eveserose here. Welcome to the first episode of Make the Cut, which is a show I've literally been planning for the last, 2 years. But here we are, finally at the first actual episodes. That's pretty cool. Today we're going to be looking at the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, so let's jump into it. So the show was aired in 1989, so I'm not going to count any games past that point. I'm looking at games that came out in the year of 1989 or before, because how could they have known whether things were going to be accurate to games that were coming out in the future? They wouldn't. So yes, from common sense, in terms of accuracy, I'm only counting games up to 1989. The show itself was produced by Deke Entertainment, which is an American company, so in case you're wondering, yes, I am counting Super Mario Bros. 2 or Doki Doki Panic, depending on what you want to call it, because they're an American company, and also you can very clearly see that they drew a lot of inspiration from it, so it'd be a bit weird not to count it. And also, just so that we're all on the same page, I'm only doing episodes 1 through 3 in this video, because otherwise it'll take like 20 years to actually get through it. But yes, let's actually get into accuracy. So first things first, when you look at a show, is the opening, seeing if that's got anything in it that is very clearly wrong. Except that this show actually has two openings. It has a live action one and an animated one, which the live action one, other than the fact that it's live action, which is a bit weird, there's nothing particularly odd about it. It's a cool remix of the original theme, which is nice, which I tend to get stuck in my head often. Hint, don't do that during the exam period, it's not good. But the animated opening has something that's a little bit more interesting. It has a line that says that the brothers found the secret warp zone while working on the drain, which they're plumbers, so I kind of see why they made that up. And at the time there was nothing in canon to say that that's true or not true, so it's fine. Yoshi's Island wasn't out, so there's nothing really to compare it to, so sure, it's fine. So then the next thing to consider is probably the plot. So the plot of the live action section is, I don't know. There are guest stars every episode, which, I mean, they had to fill in the time somehow, so sure. The animated part of the show says that Mario and Luigi are plumbers from Brooklyn, which the plumbers part is established in the arcade game, so fair enough. Brooklyn, some people say that the arcade game actually took place in the sewers in Brooklyn, so I can see where they got that, but it's not confirmed, so I don't know. It's reasonable to assume that it's probably fine. The other main part of the plot is that they're trying to save Peach's kingdom from King Koopa, who's doing something to it. You don't really find out much about it other than King Koopa is a bad guy and Princess Toadstool is trying to save her people with magic, which I suppose sort of follows the plot of the first game, where you have to save Peach because she's the only one with the magic to restore her people from being rocks and plants. So I'm assuming that's kind of where we're going from with that, but to be honest, I don't know. The other thing with the plot is that, well, not the plot so much as how the episodes are filled out, is that they're all parodies of classic tales. Like, episode 2 is set in Cramelot, as in a parody of Camelot, which is cringe as all hell. It's not an accuracy thing, it's just awkward. So yeah, I don't have much to say about that. But the characters themselves, I do have something to say about. So, Mario's character design, he's depicted with a blue shirt and red overalls, which I always thought was weird, because I always thought that was like flip of what it's supposed to be. But no, in the original game, he did have red overalls, so fair enough. Except that he had a brown shirt, so that's inaccurate, but hey, they tried, whatever. The only thing of note with his personality is his obsession with Italian food and making jokes about Italian food.
Don't worry, Princess. Luigi and me will climb that mountain before you could say spaghetti and meatballs.
they got that out of nowhere. But to be fair, all he does in the first few games is run and eat. So, you know, they had to come up with a personality there out of something. Eating, sure. Luigi's character design is a bit more unique, I guess. So, like Mario, he has a blue shirt and green overalls, because that's his colour, which is completely wrong to his design in the games. Where he has a green shirt and white or black overalls, depending on which game it is. So they completely mucked that up, but I suppose they wanted them to match, fair enough. Luigi speaks Pidgeot, apparently, because reasons. Obviously not in the games, but sure, he can, and therefore, why not? And also, his personality is that he's a bit of a scaredy cat. He's kind of terrified of everything. Which is interesting, because that wasn't a character trait for Luigi until Luigi's Mansion. So, they made it up out of nowhere, and it stuck, I guess. Personally, I'd like to think that the show actually influenced the games on that one, but who am I to actually say that? Like, I just think that would be cool. Toad's design is kind of completely wrong, but you know, they tried. In the first episodes, the colours of his hat, I guess, are switched. In the show, it's a hat. I don't know whether it's a hat in the games. It's not confirmed, so I don't know. But the colours of it are switched, that's what matters. He has a white vest when he should have either a red, black, or blue one, which is wrong, obviously. And personality-wise, they kind of just made up one for him, so the way I've described him is that he's a pun-spouting sass shroom, which, honestly, yeah, he really likes puns, and he's very sassy and not taking any of anyone's crap, which is, yeah, that's pretty much how he rolls. So yeah, that's Toad for you. And next up is Princess Toadstool, who is actually my favourite character in the whole show, to be honest. She's brilliant. She's so good. With the design in terms of the way that she looks, she has a pink dress, which the design of it is fine compared to the games. There's nothing particularly odd about it, it's okay. But she does have red hair, which I always thought was a bit weird. There's two ways you can actually look at this in terms of its accuracy, because in the games, yeah, her hair was red to begin with, because Sprite stuff. So yes, she did have red hair. But she's always had yellow, my god. She's always had blonde hair in the promotional art, and like in all the official art for the games and stuff. So, and they've actually been more accurate to the games than to the artist's intention, which I think is interesting. So, yes, it's accurate to the game, but it's not accurate to what Nintendo was actually going for, which I don't really know how to count that. It's not inaccurate, but it's not accurate either. It's just this weird void of eh. In terms of personality, she's logical, determined, and kind, and she's pretty much the problem solver of the group, to be honest. Like, they're like, oh god, what are we gonna do? And Mario comes up with an idea, and she's like, that's dumb, let's do this. Honestly, her personality in the show is actually... This is my personal opinion. It's kind of better than the personality that Nintendo's given her now. Like, now she's just kind of a ditz, and I'm like, that's cool and all, but look at this Peach. Look at how great she is. This one is the good one. So, I don't know, maybe that's just me. And also, this isn't to do with accuracy, but I love it. It's like my favourite Peach moment in the first 3 episodes. In the 3rd episode, they get captured by this Sultan guy, because Aladdin. And the Sultan decides that Princess Toadstool is gonna be in her harem, and she's like, me? In a harem? No, I'm not having any of that. I am not interested in things from the stupid olden days, and I'm just like, I love it so much. It's like one of my favourite moments in the whole show, to be honest. It's just Peach being like, no, I'm not having any of your misogynistic bullshit. No. It's pretty great. But enough about Princess Toadstool, as much as I could talk about her forever. And on to King Koopa. I'm not going to talk about his personality, because his personality is just generic character from an early 90s cartoon. Even though it wasn't from the early 90s, it's the same kind of idea. If you've seen an early 90s cartoon, you know what King Koopa's going to be like, so there we are. His design is probably the weirdest of them all, because if you didn't know that he was supposed to be Bowser, you wouldn't necessarily realize that that's what he is. In the show, he's all green, when in the games, the early games, he was mostly green, but he had orangey arms, I guess. His eyes and the spikes on his shell are yellow in the show when they're white in the game, so I'm not really sure what's up with that. Despite the fact that he doesn't have a crown in the games, they gave him one, which is taped up at the front, which I actually think is a really cool detail because, like, he's a king, but he's not really a king because it's tape. I don't know, it amuses me. It's stupid and it's not accurate, but it's good. In the games he has orange hair, whereas he's kind of bald in the show for some reason. So yeah, it's a bit weird. He does, however, retain his cool spiky bracelets that have spikes on them and stuff. So, you know, that's all you need really to tell that King Koopa, is the spiky bracelets. Because who else in the universe has them? No. So the next thing to talk about is sound of the show. The kinds of sound effects they used, the music they used, that kind of thing. The music is from the games, the early games, which it's not always used in the same context as it is in the games, but to be honest, it's close enough, so I'm just gonna be happy with it and go on my merry way. In terms of sound effects, they use walking and jumping and other sound effects like that in the live action section, which weirds me out and is very strange, and I really wish they wouldn't do that, but they did, so I mean, okay, it's not, yeah, fine, okay. They sometimes use them in the wrong spots, like they'll use like an attack sound, like a damage taking sound when there's no anything like that, and I'm just like, okay, you do that. So yeah, sometimes they use the wrong sound effects, but it's okay. And in the animation, they use jumping sound effects and damage sound effects and yeah, stuff like that, and they use them all at the right times and it makes sense, and yeah, that's all good. Okay, so next up is all the enemies they use in the show, which they use a lot of them, and admittedly, most of them come from Mario 2. Hence why I mentioned that I'm including it at the start. So, in episode 1, there is a Birdo who is purple and it spits everywhere and it can fly. They're usually pink, but they can turn red or green in Mario 2, so fair enough, I guess. But yeah, not purple. Purple's not correct. I don't know why they chose purple. And it can't fly, and I don't know what's with the spitting thing. Basically, they just took something and went, and then did what they wanted. I don't really understand. There is a baby Birdo in the episode, which is probably more accurate to what Birdo is supposed to be than the mother, because reasons. So next up, they have Flores, I think is how you say it, and Albatross, which are perfectly accurate, and they're from Mario Bros 2, and they're all good. Same with the red or grey / black, I don't really know what colour to describe that as. The Bezo Bandits in episode 2, I believe. Yeah, they're from Mario Bros 2, and they're fine, they're accurate, there's nothing wrong with them, they're okay. They also have white bob-ombs with arms, which I thought was weird, but as it turns out, there are bob-ombs with arms in Mario 2. You're sensing my theme here? You're sensing the theme of everything is from Mario 2 in this show? Yeah. Except that they were red, not white. They're supposed to be red. But, you know, they tried. Fair enough. They also have, as they called them, I swear, quoting the episode, they called them Koopa Troopers with wings. And I'm just sitting there like, paratrooper. It's a paratrooper. That's what you call them when they have wings. Don't you know? Don't you realise? So yeah, they called them Koopa Troopers with wings, which I have written as wrong because it's wrong. And also they drop nets, which they don't do in the games, but I see why they did it in the show, because they had to take liberties to make the show actually interesting. So, okay. Next up is killer piranha fish that have ridiculously hardcore teeth that are terrifying and literally just like triangles. It's scary as hell. But they're actually just cheeps, which aren't scary. I'm not really sure why they called them killer piranha fish, because they're not. Like, they don't even try to kill you. They just kind of swim around and then accidentally run into you and you die. They're not even trying to kill you. So, I'm not sure what's up with that, but sure. Killer piranha fish. You go for it, Geek Entertainment. You do it. Next up is Pidgeots, which, according to the show, they're blue, they can fly, and they eat carpet. So they're from Mario Bros 2, in case you were wondering where they could possibly be from. Usually in the games they're purple or black, but in the SNES version they were blue, so they're not technically wrong, except for the fact that they're wrong about everything else about them. So they are flightless birds. they can't fly, they're flightless. And they ride carpets. That's how they fly. They ride magic carpets. But instead the show shows them eating flying carpets because whatever. I don't even know. Because reasons. That's why. The only other thing to mention in terms of enemies is that they showed beating up Koopa Troopers in episode 2, I think, to be jumping on them and then throwing them. Like, I started watching that bit and I was like, oh yeah, jumping on them. Good, they got something right. And then they just like picked them up by the leg and threw them away and I was like, they're meant to be kicked, guys. They're meant to be kicked. I don't know how they mucked that up, but they did, so that was interesting. Okay, so the only thing left to consider is items and how they're handled in the show. So in the first episode there's a fire flower, which is shaped, you know, like a flower, which I see why they did that, because it's a flower, but in the games they're ovals, so points deducted, because having to keep it the same and everything, fair enough. Other than that though, the colour of the flower itself, the sound effects used, and the outfit that it gave Mario and Luigi, perfectly fine. So yeah, you know, they did well. They actually did pretty well handling the fire flowers, so that was good. There was one episode, I can't remember which episode it was, I'm gonna say it's still one, where they used turnips to tackle enemies and stuff. That was good, from Mario Bros 2. That's where turnips are from, and they just pick them up and throw them. And that's fine, that's all good. In episode 2, in Cramelot, there was a plumber snake called Excalibur, which I'm counting as an item because it had item-like effects. Obviously, Excalibur itself doesn't have anything in the Mario universe, so I'm not really going to count that on its accuracy because I understand why it's there. But the item itself, the dialogue said that it had turned him into Super Mario, whereas his outfit showed that it had turned him into Fire Mario, which I thought was a bit weird. Because Super Mario refers to Mario when he's powered up via a mushroom, and that doesn't have the same outfit as Fire Flower Mario. So, once again, points deducted there simply from getting the outfit/dialogue wrong. Disappointing, guys, disappointing. Also in that episode, at the very end, King Koopa mysteriously runs away and vanishes by using a magic potion, which is from Mario Bros 2, once again. Except the dialogue says that he used it to make a door to the warp zone, which would be correct, except to make a door to the warp zone you have to have a vase. You have to throw it at a vase. If there's no vase, it's just the door to the subspace, and there was no vase. So, subspace, guys, not the warp zone, unless there's a vase. And there was no vase, so you're wrong. And then the last thing is in episode 3, where they have flying carpets that look like cars, because carpet. It's horrible. I love it. There were flying carpets in Mario Bros 2. They're also in Mario 64, but that game wasn't out yet, so that doesn't count. Yeah, so there are flying carpets in Mario Bros 2, the ones that are ridden by Pidgeots. So you probably know of them already from the fact that I've already talked about them in this video. Except that they don't look like cars. They just look like your run-of-the-mill flying carpet. So yeah, that's everything in the first 3 episodes of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show that I thought was particularly interesting in terms of accuracy or it being completely wrong. So now I'm gonna give it a rating. So on a scale of, well, my scale goes from 1 to 5. I'll put it in the description because I don't want to explain it all now because otherwise it'll take too long. So on my scale of 5 things, I'm gonna rate the Super Mario Bros. Super Show as a solid adaptation. Because it's not perfect. There are obviously errors where they've stuffed things up. But all of the errors are in such small detail that it doesn't really matter. And then everything else is just, they've taken liberties because they had to get a plot out of something, and you know, they had to keep the episodes interesting somehow, so I can understand why they did it. Overall, it was pretty close to the games that were out at the time. There's not really all that much to complain about, I guess, unless you get really nitpicky. So, to be honest, yeah, it's a solid adaptation. They did a good job. So yeah, that's all I have to say about the Super Mario Bros. Super Show for now, unless you guys want me to talk about more episodes of it, which I can do if you guys would like. Tell me what you think of this series, if you like it or not, down in the comments below. Because, this is a pilot episode, I'm still figuring out exactly how I'm gonna do it. So if it was a little bit shaky, that's why. It'll get better with time, but for now, that's what I've got. If there's any other shows that you want me to talk about and compare with the games that were out at the time, let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, let me know by clicking the like button. Or you could not do that. You could also not do that and that would be fine. And if you want to see more videos like this one, or alternatively, not like this one, because I'm still kind of figuring out exactly what I'm doing with this channel, then you can hit the subscribe button if you want to. Once again, I'm not going to force you into anything. You can do what you want. It's your internet. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I wish you good luck on your adventure. Bye!